What's up, everybody? It's the Benchwarmers, and we're back for our episode 6 of the Power Rankings NFL series for 2021. Before we reveal to you what team we have at number 27, please like and subscribe. It would mean so much to us, and hopefully that would allow us to bring you more content, which you would enjoy. But with that said, let us get to the number 27 team in the NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals went 4-11-1 last year, which was an okay season, but definitely better than their previous season, which landed them the first overall pick. And the first overall pick was Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow definitely was a really good college quarterback, but in the NFL, he was also quite solid. He had a decent season until he got viciously injured in his leg. But I think until then, he definitely showed a lot of promise, especially in the passing game. However, he had an extremely weak offensive line, which caused him to be one of the most sacked quarterbacks through the first few weeks and eventually caused him that injury. So after he got injured, there wasn't really a whole lot that the Bengals could do. They pretty much lost out from then on. They had a couple of fluke wins here and there, but it was, as I said, fluky. However, one more player I'd like to highlight is the other rookie they took in the second round, Clemson wide receiver T. Higgins. T. Higgins had a really strong start to the year because of his connection with Joe Burrow. And even though they were rivals and played in the national championship game, they had really great synergy. And T. Higgins had some very great performances early on. In fact, I had him on my fantasy team until Joe Burrow got injured. So I think that both of them are definitely very good pieces moving forward on the offense, but we'll have to see how the rest of the team coalesces around them.
Even though they didn't play that well last year, they actually had a pretty solid draft, and they had the 5th overall pick due to their 4-11-1 record. So with the 5th overall pick, they selected Jamar Chase, who is a wide receiver from LSU, the same school as Joe Burrow. I think this was a solid pick and definitely an improvement to offense since he's a really good prospect and he's also from the same school as Joe Burrow, so they'll immediately click in the NFL. But I think this pick may not have been the best because they passed on Sewell. But that being said, I think Jamar Chase has a higher ceiling, so it may have been the right choice. We'll just have to wait and see. And in round 2, they picked Jackson Carman, an offensive tackle. I think this pick may have been a reach, but I think it was the right idea because they still added some protection for Joe Burrow, and it was the right positional need. In round 3, they drafted Joseph Osai 69th, and he's a defensive end. I think this was an absolute steal, and it was an excellent upgrade to their defensive line that was not that good, that also has many aging players and players leaving, such as Carl Lawson. And they also had a few more late round picks, but they were decent and they weren't exceptional. So I would give this draft a B plus. I think they made some solid picks and some steals like Joseph Osai, but wasn't exceptional. So it was still overall good.
Yeah, during the offseason, they didn't make any blockbuster trades, but they were quite busy in both signing and losing free agents. So they got Trey Hendrickson, who had a huge breakout year with the Saints with 13 and a half sacks last year. They also added Chidobe Awuzie, former best cornerback on the Cowboys, as well as Riley Reef to improve the offensive line, and Larry Ogunjobi on the defensive line. They lost a lot of veterans as well, including AJ Green after 10 years with the team. They also lost Gio Bernard, Geno Atkins, Carl Lawson, and William Jackson. So overall, it looks like with these signings and losses, they generally got a bit younger during free agency, losing some veterans and bringing in some players that can continue to improve.
So how do we view the Bengals next year? I personally had them the lowest of the three of us. I had them at 28. I had them below the Eagles because I just don't think they did enough work on the offensive line to help protect Joe Burrow. I really like Joe Burrow. I think he's going to be extremely well and can be extremely good, but his style of quarterback requires a really good offensive line. If they aren't going to be as mobile, they need a very good offensive line, and the Bengals just didn't provide that. Also, I don't think the defense made sufficient improvements. I do think Trey Hendrickson's a good get, but I think their corner and linebacker depth still isn't amazing. And that showed for many parts last season, will continue to show this season, unless there's some extreme improvements. And also, I think that that Joe Burrow, I hope this won't happen, but he's coming back from injury. He hasn't been looking too good at camp. I just hope that he won't completely fluster out and get injured again, or just have a terrible season and get benched, because that would be the last thing you want from a number 1 pick by the Cincinnati Bengals organization. However, I think that they will be in some close games, but they will unfortunately come from the losing side of them because of their bad defense.
On my power ranking list, I had the Bengals at 27, which was also our consensus. I think the Bengals remind me of the Jaguars. They both have very young quarterbacks and they have very young teams, but I personally had the Bengals at a higher spot because they had a very good defense compared to the Jaguars, who didn't really address their defensive needs. The Bengals have some young stars like Jesse Bates, who is one of the best safeties in the league. Their defensive line is also decent, and their receiving core offensively is also better than the Jaguars, in my opinion. They have some young stars, whereas the Jaguars signed some older free agents like Marvin Jones. And I think teams are very similar, so we should definitely look out for both of them. But I think the Bengals are a little more well-rounded, but their offense is definitely a force to be reckoned with now.
Yeah, I agree with both of you in some respects, but I had the Bengals ranked just a little bit higher than the other two, at 27 or 26. And I just think that Joe Burrow is really going to have a great year because even though he was injured a lot of last year, obviously, in the games that he did play, he was solid even with the somewhat weak offensive line. And as long as he stays healthy for the full year, I think he'll continue to carry the Bengals. As long as they improve somewhat on the offensive line, because I definitely think that they did. It'll be good enough, obviously not great, but good enough. So that's why I think Joe Burrow will have a good enough year to have them be not as terrible as they were last year. But that wraps it up for this video talking about the Bengals and why we have them ranked 27 in our 2021 NFL Power Rankings. If you liked it, remember to like. If you didn't, let us know why in the comments below, and we will look to change that in the future. But this is the Benchwarmers signing out. See ya.